Okay, so welcome to our Tanya class. We're studying this week chapter 7 in Tanya. Chapter 7 is a very, very fundamental part of Tanya. Every chapter obviously is important. Everyone's unique for different reasons. The reason why this chapter is so important is because it lays down the framework of what each and every one of us is path in life is in terms of our involvement with the physical world and the power that we have with our mind and heart to create the proper intentions to elevate and transform the world to make the world a more of a godly place. Now, what does that mean? It means like this. We discussed until now that we have a godly soul, we have the intellect, the emotions, all the other attributes. Today we're discussing the world that we're dealing with. Now the world we're dealing with is the outside world, namely the physical world that we interact with, and also our animal soul that's within us. And our animal soul and the world out there go under the same spiritual category. I'll say the word in Hebrew, and then we'll go into a whole discussion what it is. Namely, it's called Klipat Noga. Anyone know what that means? Okay. Well, Klipa's not evil, so I'm going to explain what it is. Klipa's not evil, and Noga. What does Noga mean? Okay, so let me explain to you what it means. And by introduction, that is we're going to create three categories: right, left, and center. Okay. So the category on the right, we're going to call Kedusha. What is Kedusha? Or a mitzvah, right? What's Kedusha? What's a mitzvah? So when you walk into a shul, what do you see? A holy place. A holy place. You look at a prayer book or a Torah book, whether it's Mishnah, Talmud, whatever it may be, you see a holy thing. It's not a question that is holy. You see a Torah, wow, that's really, really holy. Okay, so in other words, this world that we're living in, you have something which is called Kedusha. Meaning to say is, when you look at it, you see it's holy. What does holy represent practically? What does that mean when you see something's holy? What does that mean, holy?
Godly.
There you go, godly. When you see a synagogue, when you see a prayer book, when you see like a mitzvah taking place, a bris, right, or a wedding, you see God. And it's a godly experience. That's the right side, that's the definition of Kedusha. Now, if we could be busy our whole life with Kedusha, how wonderful would that be? Wonderful. That would be a spiritual honeymoon.
It would be Kedusha.
It would be Kedusha. It would be you would be on a spiritual resort for your whole life.
Blessed.
It would be a spiritual high. And you can't compare it to a physical high from like a chemical. Right. This is a real high, a real high. Why? Because you're busy with God. You're involved with God. Now, that's Kedusha. Then you have, we'll go to the other extreme, we'll get to the middle. Then you have something which is called Shalosh Klipot Atmeot, or another term would be something which is asur, something which is forbidden. So that would be something very simple that is forbidden. So for example, you see a non-kosher animal. I mean, God created it, it has its life force, it has its purpose. But we don't have any ability to get involved with it to be able to elevate it. It's forbidden. Whatever you're going to do, you'll never be able to elevate it. You see someone, God forbid, hurting somebody. That's not a good thing. You see someone terrorizing somebody, abusing someone, killing somebody. There's no redeeming value there. There's nothing that you can rationalize and create a story why it's a good thing. So that's another extreme.
But we can forgive them.
Another discussion. That's a different discussion. We're talking about the raw materials.
All right, I'm sorry,
No,
Rabbi.
raw materials. Okay. Then you have something which is called Klipat Noga. And this is going to be the heart of today's discussion. What is Klipat Noga? Klipat Noga is, Klipa comes from the word of a shell, and Noga comes from the word of the prophets where they describe the three impure klipot. After three impure klipot, it says Noga. There's like a ray of light. It's not the light itself, but there's a ray of light coming into that klipa.
Does it purify it?
So, what does that mean? It's a shell. When you look at the shell, you don't see, like, say you take, for example, you have an orange, a grapefruit, any fruit that has a shell. So you have the shell, and you have the edible part inside. So when you see the produce, what do you see? That fruit, you see the shell. You don't see the fruit that you can eat. But inside is the fruit. So the klipa is not bad. It's actually to protect the fruit. But could you eat the fruit? Could you eat the shell? No, it's not meant to be eaten. It's not forbidden, but it's not meant to be eaten. Now, through a proper processing, you can refine the shell and actually make certain good fibers out of it. That's actually very good for people's diet. I mean, it's now it's a new, now that everyone's like getting into health food, there's a lot of tremendous health benefits in the shell of every single food. Yeah. Okay. Now, so that is the middle of the ground, klipat noga, which means it's not, when you look at the shell, you don't see the fruit, but on the other hand, it's not forbidden. It's not a bad thing. That is a neutral territory, and by taking that neutral territory, if you're neutral, you can go one of two ways. You can stay neutral, you're not going anywhere, right? You can either put it into drive, or you can go into reverse. So the same thing also, klipat noga, which is a big family. Our animal soul is klipat noga, food, physical things in this world, places is klipat noga, right? Unless it's a holy place or it's a forbidden place. So anything that's not holy, anything that's not holy, apparent, from the outlook, anything that's not forbidden goes into the category of klipat noga. And you think about it, most of the things in the world is klipat noga. Now, literally, most of the things in this, would you say, percentage-wise, most of the things in this world are kadosh, are holy? No.
Neutral.
How many Jerusalems are there? Right? How many synagogues? There's a lot, but I mean, percentage-wise to the world? So there is Kedusha, but not a huge amount. In the world, holiness is a very small amount. In this physical world. This world, forbidden things, there's forbidden things, but I wouldn't say it's a majority. Probably most of the things in this world is neutral. Neutral. First of all, we each have within us an animal soul, which is neutral. What's our job in the world?
Transform it.
To engage into the neutral part of the world and hopefully transform it. And when you with the klipas noga, it can go one of two ways. Either you can take it and elevate it, and what happens is it's an upgrade to the klipat noga. So this neutral thing now becomes a holy thing. This neutral experience becomes a holy experience, or it becomes unholy. So there's really, in other words, up until you engage in it, it's neutral. When you touch it, it's either something good or something trouble is coming out. There's no middle of the road. And I'll explain what I'm saying. Okay. So take, for example, your godly soul. Godly soul sees the world as a godly place. By definition, it's a godly soul. Doesn't see, it's like a tzaddik in a certain way. Doesn't see anything negative. Sees food, sees holy things. Everything it sees knows the lens that the nefesh elokis has, the godly soul, which we all possess. Knows if the driver in our life is the godly soul, the only thing you're going to see is good things, godly things, beautiful things, optimistic things, positive things. That's wonderful. Now, if you're able to keep the godly soul as a driver and the animal soul sleeping, you're going to have a nice drive. A holy drive. The reality is, we all know that our animal souls are awake and also wants to get a hold of the wheel of our life. Now, when it wants, and you can't stop it unless you're a tzaddik, like King David. King David fought his whole life to kill his animal soul. By the end of his life, he killed it. Yeah. So King David, it took him a whole life. I think for us, it'll take a few lives. Okay. So the animal soul is fighting to do what?
To win.
Wants to have a good. He wants to drive the
Have
car.
a good time.
Oh. Here comes the work of the godly soul to try to educate, just like a child. Whether it's a child, your own child, or a teacher, or a worker that you're trying to educate to do the right thing, to be honest, to be kind, to be generous. So you have to deal with the animal soul from within or from without. So what happens when you engage in the world? So let's use a practical example, which the author gives over here in Tanya like this. So he says, you're sitting down and you want to eat dinner. It could be breakfast, lunch, a snack, whatever it be. I'll give you an example. You're sitting there and you want to eat. Now, it depends who's coming to the table. See, if the godly soul is coming to the table, there's no issue. He wants to serve God, gives me energy, I'm done. He doesn't look or taste, he doesn't look and want any pleasure. I'll give you a story, because this is like really, to be able to get it. It's a fascinating story. There was once this Jew that worked on himself, and he was able to, I wouldn't say he got rid of his animal soul, I mean, I'm not in his shoes, but he was living a godly life. I don't know if he got rid of it, he subdued it, but basically he was able to just focus, and everything he did was a godly experience. It means when he ate, he wasn't looking for it to taste good. You know, dinner, you got to eat, otherwise you're going to die. You know, God made it so that we have to eat. God could have made, we didn't have to eat. Can you imagine if God made we wouldn't have to eat? We wouldn't have to shop, we wouldn't have to cook, we wouldn't have to clean, right? And so many other things we wouldn't have to do.
Wouldn't have to
Digest, we wouldn't have to work so hard digesting, right? But for some reason, God, in a sense of humor, chose that path. One day you want to take God to therapy, you can talk to him about it, why he made it so difficult, but that will leave for your therapist, right? Because that we're not changing. So God chose that path. And this person worked on himself. You know what? He served God, he prayed, he studied, he worked, he would come home, you gotta eat, what can you do? So he sits down, he eats, and he goes to sleep. One night he was late. And you have to stand like today with lights. His wife left, the dinner on the table, and left the candle burning for him. And he was out late, and he comes home, and the candle was off. Okay, goes into the kitchen, and the candle's low. He feels around, and he finds what she left him, and he eats. Goes to sleep. They get up in the morning. So the wife says to him, "You didn't like the dinner I made you last night?"
I ate something. I go, well.
You know the story, huh?
No, I'm just guessing that he didn't eat. He ate something else.
So he says, "What are you talking about?" "Sure, I ate dinner." He says, "What do you mean?" The dinner's left. I ate it. He says, "What did I make?" "Yeah, it's soup and meat." She says, "The soup and meat is still sitting here."
What did he eat?
She looks around. Oh my gosh! You know what he ate? The sponge in the dirty water.
Oh my God. Wow.
And he didn't even
even
know.
know it.
He didn't even know that he was eating a sponge in dirty water. To him, it was just like eating a steak and a soup.
He was so hungry.
No, because he was not looking for the taste in it. He needed to eat something. It was there. He ate it. Now, obviously, that's an extreme case.
Okay.
That's a level. That's a high level.
Wow.
That's a whole level. You like the story, huh? But the point of the story is that's the way, so to speak, a tzaddik lives. That's the way a godly person. He just needs to eat. So whatever's on the table, he eats, as long as obviously it's healthy. Those days, I'm sure the sponges were made out of something healthy, right? Okay.
And he figured his wife made it.
His wife made it, and it was good. And his wife made it. It really tastes good. Anything the wife makes is good, right?
That's
Okay.
a funny story.
You like it, huh?
I love it.
You laugh for a while in the story. And then you want to laugh, think about the story. And think about how grateful you are that you don't have to eat sponges in hot water.
That's right.
Okay.
The question is, was it kosher?
Matter of fact, the sponges have OU on there.
Okay.
Okay. Let's get back to the point. So the point of the story is, so now, let's say you're sitting down to eat, and you're not in that level, right? You're not in that level. So you eat food that tastes good, smells good, right?
Yeah.
It's enjoyable. So now, here comes the reality. When you're sitting down to eat, so the godly soul, we said, he doesn't care about the taste. He'll end up eating a sponge and it's fine for him. The animal soul wants to enjoy life. It has to taste good, it has to smell good, it has to be quality food, and so on and so forth. Now, so why is he eating? He could be eating for one or two reasons. Even the animal soul. He can be eating because, hey, anything that tastes good and smells good I want. It could be garbage. It could be harmful to his health, and as we know today, most of the food today that tastes good and smells good is probably harmful to you, right? But people eat it. Why? Because it tastes good and smells good. Now, is that a godly experience? No, it's not a godly experience. Yeah, you're eating as well, and you're nourishing yourself, which you need to. But is it a godly experience? No, it's not. That's on one hand. On the other hand, you can say, listen, tastes good, it smells good, I don't care. You know what? I know I need to have energy. Why do I need energy? Because I have to serve God. I got to pray, I got to study, I got to work, I got to take care of my family, I got to be with my spouse, my kids, my parents, right? Or my friends, whatever I'm working on, holy stuff. I need energy. So it tastes good, it's very nice. You don't have to look to eat something that doesn't taste good. But the reason why I'm eating, I need energy to serve God. Two different worlds. So the Alter Rebbe says like this, very simple. Two people eating the same meal. If one person is just focused on the taste and doesn't care even about the quality of food, if it's good, not good, tastes good, what he is doing right now is, the food is what? Is the food holy?
No.
No. Is it forbidden? No, because we're talking kosher food. So it's permissible. So it goes in the category of what? Klipat noga. When you sit down to eat it, at this point, you can either take it and elevate it, or you can downgrade it. Now, what does it mean, elevate it and downgrade it? If by eating it, you're thinking because you want to serve God, and serving God we know is holy, so you took something which is neutral and you shifted it to the domain of holy. You took that meal, whatever was prepared, and you elevated it. If, on the other hand, I don't care if it's good, not good, if it's healthy, not, I want something that tastes good. Was that a holy experience? No. So what do you do with it? You actually downgraded it to shalosh klipas atmeot, where it now is like, it was never elevated. So not only wasn't elevated, now that you consumed it, it's stuck. And it's because you got energy from it. See, you got energy from it. So you derive the profit from it. But if you derive the profit, you used it for something holy, so now you cashed it in for a holy chip. But if you didn't cash it in for a holy chip, and the only thing you did was, oh, it tastes good, it feels great, you just actually brought it into the world of feeling good, all about yourself, your ego, and you actually downgraded it. That's why it says in Shabbat, a tangent, but an important one, on Shabbat it says that even if you don't have the proper intentions, you end up elevating it. Why? Because Shabbos picks it all up. So that's why Shabbat, people make delicious food and they invite guests, because you have to realize if you make food and you invite a guest and you're feeding them and they have the wrong intentions, you're a partner with somebody that's downgrading it. Versus if you invite them and they elevate it, you're a partner in someone that's elevating the food. Now during the week you're taking a risk. Either they're going to elevate it or not, we don't know. On Shabbat, guess what? Guaranteed success. Because it's Shabbos. They don't have a choice. On Shabbos, there's an extra shine that's shining, so whoever you invite to your house, even if they don't have the right thoughts, even if they're eating it because it really just tastes good, but guess what? Why are they eating it? Because it's Shabbos. It's Shabbos. You made it in honor of Shabbos. They're eating it because they were invited because it's Shabbos. They know they're there for Shabbos. So anything you do on Shabbat automatically gets elevated. And that's a beautiful, so to speak, a prize that we have once a week where you can indulge, knowing even if you don't have the proper intentions, guess what? Shabbos will elevate it.
And elevate you.
And elevates you, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
That's why when before we eat, we make the blessing. What's the idea of a blessing? To get us focused. God, you created this. Why do we make a blessing before we eat? Because you're going now to eat something, you can go up or down. So by stopping and making the blessing, you're saying, "Oh my gosh, God, you created it." That shifts it into an elevation mode. When you finish eating it, you want to tie it in. Oh, God, thanks so much. And by creating the proper intention, you're actually elevating it into a powerful level. So here you have, again, Klipat Noga, which basically can go both ways. How does it go both ways? And here's something which is really profound. Who has the power to elevate something or degrade something? You do. You do.
Your godly self.
Your intentions
Not your ego.
can elevate it or downgrade it. So you have to realize your responsibility you have. You have responsibility every single moment, you can elevate it. So I give you an example of food. But it's in anything you encounter with in the world. You can look out in nature and say, wow, right? Look how beautiful this tree is. Just the physical part of it. Or you can say, oh my gosh, look what God created. So you're calling out the godliness in the tree that God created. You're working, right? So when you work, so you can say, I'm working. Why am I working? I got to make money. I got to pay bills. I want to go have fun, right? I want to enjoy life. I want to go on a vacation. I want to go take a cruise, whatever it may be, right? So why are you working again? Did we hear anything holy about it? There was a holy experience at all? Nothing. But if you say, I'm going to work, why? Because I have to make this world a godly place. And in order to make the world a godly place, I need to have money to be able to do it. So now what happens to your whole day of work? It's
fun.
a holy thing.
It's fun.
In other words, like this. I want to again make it clear, a disclaimer here. We're not saying, the goal is not to be afraid of the world. The goal is to elevate the world. We're not saying here, don't eat good food and don't drink good food. Matter of fact, the Talmud, the author quotes places from the Talmud where great rabbi said, people asked him a question, they said, no, you know what? Let me think about it till tomorrow because I want to sit down and have a nice dinner, good meat, good wine, and that will allow me to think much better. In other words, the fact is by eating good food, delicious food, guess what? If you have the proper intentions, it makes you feel good, and then you're able to think greater and better thoughts. So we're saying on the contrary, this world, the whole world is Klipat Noga. Our job is to elevate what? Not every part of the world. How do we elevate it? By the proper intention. Well, like the Alter gives another example. We know that it says in the beginning of Tanya, to sit around and say jokes is not appropriate. It leads nowhere. Why? Because jokes go in the category of Klipat Noga, right? But what happens if you're trying to give a class, or a speech, or get the attention of a group, and they're like a little distracted, and you want to draw them in? How do you draw them in? So those rabbis in the Talmud, before they would start teaching, okay, guess what? A joke. Right? And they would say the joke and everyone would start laughing. And then when he got them laughing, okay, let's learn this piece of Gemara. Let's learn this piece of Mishnah. Right. Guess what? Did he take a joke and he elevated the joke? Why? Because he used the joke to get everyone's attention that now they're going to learn better. So again, so you see the purpose of this chapter Tanya is so powerful because the author was telling you, don't be afraid of the world. Engage in the world. The best jokes, right?
Use it.
Use it. For what? To serve God.
Good.
The best wine, the best meat, the best vacation. So you should have energy to serve God. See, again, there's nothing wrong with doing something neutral as long as you do it for the right intentions. On the contrary, we have an obligation to engage in everything neutral in the world for the right intentions. And also, never forget when the internet starts to develop and you're able to do webcasts around the world. Today it's nothing. Every kid with a smartphone can do it. But you can hook up people from all 20 different countries of the world. But when it originally came out, it was a whole big production. And it cost tens of thousands of dollars to do it. And they brought in big trucks and machines and satellites and everything. So Rabbi said it came out, guess what? Why did the whole thing come out for? So we can spread Torah around the world. And they put on a beautiful event, literally from New York and Russia and Israel and I think Australia and South Africa, of like a Hanukkah event around the world using the highest technology. What was the point? Don't be afraid of the world. What do you think it was created for? To show that this is a holy world. It's a godly place. So in other words, the author is coming and saying it, don't be afraid of the world. The world is a great place. But one condition.
Use it.
you got to put money in the meter. What's the money? The proper intention that you're using it and you're doing this to elevate it. Think about how you feel now. You have the power and the responsibility to transform and elevate this world. Because when you walk on the street, any street, and you have holy thoughts, and you're going to do a mitzvah, and you're thinking about something you studied, right? Guess what? You've taken a street and you've elevated it. I mean, it's profound. You have a unique mission that no one else has in the world.
We have the power.
We have the power.
God gave us.
Exactly. In other words, like this. There's a verse that says, Kol masecha l'shem shemayim. What does that mean? Kol means everything, all. Masecha, your actions. It means all. When we say all, what does all mean? You know what all means? Everything.
Everything. Limitless.
Everything means everything, and there's nothing that's not included in the everything. It means from the morning till at night, from when you're born until you die. Why? We said everything. What everything? All your actions. L'shem shemayim. You should do for the sake of God. So in other words, every moment you have a job and a responsibility. What am I doing now to make this moment l'shem shemayim? Now let me ask you a question like this. Could you ever be bored?
Never.
Never. You have a full-time job 24/7. Unless if you get collapsing and falling asleep, you fall asleep. You got to go sleep for a few hours. But you have the biggest problem people have, one of the biggest, is people are bored. Right? They bored, they feel empty, they feel like they have no purpose. They have no purpose in life. We're saying is, no. What do you mean you have no purpose? Every single second you have a job. I'm not talking about your external job to get paid, or what you do for a hobby. I'm talking you have the most important job that every single moment you have to make this world a godly experience.
Yes.
Think about, they say if you want to get something done, you give it to a busy person, right? Why? Because a busy person is in the mode of doing things and he gets things done. If you know that kol masecha, every single one of your actions, from the morning till when you go to sleep, and even while you're sleeping, and then throughout the day, you're constantly busy to doing what? Not stuff that has no value. Stuff that has infinite value. Taking neutral things in this world that can sit neutral, no one's going to interact with it, or someone can interact with it and downgrade it, or you elevate it. Now, not only do you have that job, but there's a condition. The Alter Rebbe says, God gives you a condition. If you're working for me, right? So let's say you hire someone. So depending on what industry, there's a lot of conditions. For example, if you're a physician, you have to wear, just for an example, you have to wear a white garment, right? If you're, let's say, in the trade industry, there's certain garments you wear. Then there's certain things you have to come on certain time. You have to have a certain attitude. Certain things, for example, is appropriate. Certain type of language, certain type of language is not appropriate. I mean, there's rules, and every workplace has their rules, etc. God has one rule. What's his rule when you're working for God?
Do everything with love.
Close. That's true. But what's God?
Compassion.
Getting closer.
Closer.
Huh? Holy. What?
Kedushas.
Do what he wants you to do.
Purpose. Do you want you to do?
With gratitude.
Do everything l'shem shemayim.
We said that already.
With love, peace.
With joy.
Oh, very good. You got it. Oh, I knew someone will get it. You got it. In other words, God says, you working for me? No problem. One condition. You got to be happy. That's part of the deal. That means, you're working for me, you're making this world a godly place? Don't do it, I got to do this. No, don't do that. You're working for me, you want to make this world a godly place? Put on a smile. Hey, guess what? I have the most important job today. What? I'm eating a sandwich or I'm elevating it. Right? What's the difference? Whatever you're doing. Today I'm gardening, right? To make my house a beautiful place for God. Today I'm preparing for Shabbos, right? What's the complaint? What's the frowning all about? First of all, you're going to get fired. Not that God never fires you, but you're not doing your job honestly. When you take on a job, you got to do it honestly. You're being dishonest in the job.
Not being responsible.
Then, Why? Because ultimately, what's the goal? The goal of all this is to become close to God. So if you're happy, think about it. If you're happy, you're going to be close to God. If every action of yours, you're doing it to serve God, then you're going to be close to God. So the vision is to be close to God. You want to get close to God? Whatever you do for the sake of God. And you do it with a joyful demeanor. Then guess what? You're on with Hashem.
And both you and God are joyful.
What?
Both you and God are joyful.
Yes. Okay, now, so that is obviously the goal. What's the goal? The goal is to take the Klipat Noga, to take the neutral part of the world, and that's basically most of the world, engage, don't run away from it, engage for the sake of making the experience a godly and making the world a better place, engage with an attitude of joy to become close to God. If you do that, guess what? You're doing a great job. You're taking the neutral, you're elevating the holy. Now the world is becoming much more of a holier place. And the truth is, as more and more people do more and more holy things, the world becomes much more of a holy place. The Alter Rebbe goes on to say, what happens if you don't? You don't. Instead of doing it what we spoke before, but instead you're just thinking about, oh, this really feels good and it tastes good. You forgot about God. It feels good to me. God somehow left the equation. And you're not always necessarily so happy about doing what you're doing. You're only doing because it feels good, it tastes good. You've just taken neutral things and downgraded it to shalosh klipot hatmeot. We're not talking about sinning. We're talking about taking something neutral and not having the proper intentions. There's holiness, there's sinning, but then there's neutral, the proper intentions elevates it, not the proper downgrades it. Okay. So what happens if you do that, and you keep on doing that? You look back, you go, oh my gosh, what have I done? I spent all this time, energy, when I could have transformed whatever I did, and look, it was just purely selfish, self-centered for my personal enjoyment. And you didn't do a bad thing. You didn't kill someone. It's not forbidden. You didn't hurt anybody. You didn't kill anybody, but you didn't elevate it. You lost an opportunity to elevate. So you look back and you go, oh my gosh, missed opportunity. Comes along the Alter Rebbe and he says that's where God gives you a beautiful gift. And he gives you a gift that all the things you engaged in, but you didn't have the right intention, but you already engaged in it. For example, you ate, you drank, you went on trips, you enjoyed the physical world, you had a nice car, a nice house, whatever it may be. But you didn't do it because you wanted to serve God, so the job was done already. You can't undo the job, and you can't do a new job. That's new. We're talking about every moment has its moment. At this moment, you elevated it or you downgraded it, right? So obviously, you take on a resolution from here on. That's from here on. But the question is, you look, oh my gosh, look at all these years that I wasted. I mean, not I wasted. I missed opportunity to transform it. So comes along the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe says, and this is like a revolutionary concept in mysticism, that through proper tshuva, and I'll explain what this is because tshuva is a word that has to be defined. And not regular tshuva, but tshuva mitoich ahava, out of love, and not only out of regular love, but ava rabba, an immense amount of love. And I'll go back and explain the process. You can go ahead and you can take all these missed opportunities that are already in the past. You can transform them into the positive. Now that's wild.
Wow.
That's wild. Think about it. It's done, right?
Over.
You know the expression, right? The milk is spilled, right? What's done is done. Here comes mysticism based on the Torah and says, if a person does tshuva with ava rabba, and I'll explain in a minute what that is, but the important point is, and we'll get back to the process, you can take something which was a missed opportunity, and instead of elevating it, you actually downgrade it, and it's forbidden, and it's tied up into a place where it's not releasing godly sparks. It's actually it's tied up from a spiritual perspective. You, by doing that, You can turn around and take all the past missed opportunities, and all of a sudden, guess what? You actually pull it through and you elevate it all out.
You correct errors that are already done.
Correct.
Like, that's
Already
amazing.
done. That's awesome. So now the big question, how do you go do that? Right? Isn't that an amazing thing to know? How do you go do
How
that?
do you do it?
So the author explains like this. What is tshuva? Tshuva is, if you translate it, tashuv. Tashuv means to return. Hey, Tashem, you decide, guess what? Oh my gosh. I lived a life. I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't kill it. I mean, but I did all these things. I could have elevated. I didn't. I did it pure personal pleasure. What a waste of a life. When I could have made this world more of a godly place. So tshuva means you recognize, obviously, what you missed. Now, there's two types of tshuva. One is from yira, when you're in awe of God. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid God's going to... That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking tshuva from ava, from love. So in other words, like this. And tshuva from love, and great amount of love, that will allow you to yank out all the past that was done in neutral areas, not for the right reasons, and transform it. What does that mean practically? Let me give you an example, because it's obviously a little out of the box. So, let's say you're living a good life, right? Nothing, everything's okay. It's not great, bad, it's good. Life is working. It's not perfect, because no one has a perfect. The only one who has a perfect is God and the angels, right? We live a up and down life. But it's okay, you're managing. And I say to you, you know what? If you take a walk now for a week, you have to go by foot. At the end of the week's walk, in this place, you'll find a treasure chest, and there's, I don't know what excites people here, but let's use a number. I don't know, $10 million excites anybody here?
Diamonds.
What, 10 million diamonds, right? He wants diamonds. Okay, whatever excites you, there's a nice treasure there.
Yeah.
Now, so obviously you're going to pick up and go. Are you running? You're going. You're not, right? Life is good. But obviously the treasure, you're not sure it's still there, you know what I mean? You're still apprehensive, but you're moving, you're walking, it's hard, then you have to take water, you have to take a break, but you're doing it, right? So, even though you know you're going to get a big prize, but you're not like rushing. Why? Because the seat you're sitting on is not burning. The seat you're sitting on is not burning. You know there's something better there, great. But I'm not rushing from here. Life is comfortable. I'm on a comfortable couch. Hard to get me up from this couch. Okay, fine, see, I'm going to go there. But the truth is, so my life was going to be a little better. Very nice. But what happens if your life is in danger? As you're sitting on your comfortable couch, and you turn around, and there's a fire in front of you and in back of you. How quick are you off that couch?
Fast.
Faster than you can even think. Before you can even think, you're jumped and you're out of there. Why? Because the threat of danger is more motivating than the prize that someone promises you're going to have after you take a long walk. Yeah, true, I'd like to go there, but I'm not rushing out of here. In other words, like this. So the author explains like this. Tshuva with tremendous love is where you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't want to live this life anymore. What, I'm just keeping on eating and drinking and just living like a life without meaning? No. I am not living a life that's empty. Because you finally realize the life without God is an empty life. And until you don't come to that realization, just like the same feeling that if there was a fire burning, you're out of here automatically. It doesn't even take a second for you to run, and you're running because you're in danger. The same way you have to come to the realization, oh my gosh, I am not living for another second without God in every single aspect of my life. and I am not living another second without real joy, and I am not living another second without being close to God. Guess what? You leave everything behind. Because the truth is, you're not leaving anything behind. You're just running away from an empty life. It's a black hole, it's empty, I'm not doing it. The only thing I want is, I want to be close to God, I want to be happy, I want everything I do to make a name for God in this world. How's the energy there?
Terrific.
Phenomenal. That's called tshuva, not only with love, with tremendous love. Because I'm so running to God, because I realize the life I'm living is so empty that I'll never go back to this place. And the only place I'm going to stick to is God, joy, and making this world a godly place. I'm only going to be busy with holy things or taking neutral things and making them holy. By taking that attitude, the Alter Rebbe says, and this is a profound, in Hebrew it's called a chiddush, a profound novel idea, you actually take all the actions that you've done till now that were just to enjoy life, that created that empty space for you. See, you have to realize what created that emptiness is by you continuing to live an empty life. So in other words...
But it made room for God.
Right. In other words, because you lived an empty life, because you kept on indulging in the materialistic world and there's no meaning there, that brought you to this huge piece of history in your life. Oh my gosh, whether it could be a week, could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 3 years, it could be 5, it could be 10 years, it could be 18 years. This big 18-year span of literally just living a life as an animal. Not an animal, a wild animal. An animal, what's an animal do? He gets up, he eats, he drinks, he sleeps, he walks around in the field. That's what animals do. There's no purpose, there's no meaning. He's not trying to make the world a godly place. So when you say, oh my gosh, guess what? With that energy that you're running to God, you actually pull, because you have to, when you run, right? Who's running? Who's running?
You are.
You're running. Who are you? Is the godly soul running? The godly soul never left. The godly soul is always with God. It's the animal soul that woke up one day and said, oh my gosh, I don't want to live this life. So the animal soul elevates itself with all the actions it's done. So here you see the power of tshuva with love and great love. And I think that's why I think this chapter is such a profound and important chapter of Tanya, chapter 7, because literally this is something which we deal with every single day, every single hour, and really every single minute. Every single minute, am I trying to make it l'shem shamayim? Am I doing what God wants? Am I doing it with joy? And am I making this world a godly place? Or am I just, taking care of myself? Just like grazing the sheep in the field, right? Another animal feeding itself. So, and not only that, but here you realize that if you were doing, and it doesn't mean in every aspect of your life, when you face it, oh my gosh, and you realize, oh my gosh, and that's important to do meditating, looking at all the areas in your life that you were just like living without godliness, and you say, that's it, I'm never doing that again. So not only do you change your life in the positive, where now you're going to live a happy, godly life, but you actually take all the actions, because that brought you to this place. Because in order to make that move, you had to be so low. And the reality is, you can look back and say, oh my gosh, but look. No, the Alter Rebbe says on the contrary. Because, for example, a tzaddik, someone that's a righteous man, could never make that jump and never transform and never advance like a Baal Tshuva. Why? Because a tzaddik lives a whole life even keel. A Baal Tshuva, true, he had some dark moments, which the tzaddik never had. But he has the power now to take all those dark moments and elevate them, and now reach places the tzaddik can never get to. Because the tzaddik is not burning on fire. Tzaddik is, has a flame, but it's burning steady, slow and steady.
So use the energy of that.
The Baal Tshuva has the fire, has the real fire.
Energy.
So here, and I think that's why I think this chapter is so powerful, because this chapter gives the opportunity to live a life on fire.